Hello, everybody. Welcome to this is a special edition of the Don Lemon Show, Lemon Live at 5. We have some breaking news and an exclusive for you. We're going to get to that exclusive interview in just a moment, but we have breaking news as it involves the late Jeffrey Epstein and what is happening at the FBI and the investigation. And this is according to, let's put it up now, according to Axios, FBI's Dan Bongino clashes with AG Bondi over handling of Epstein files. And then we have the CNN reporting as well. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino has told people he is considering resigning amid Epstein files fallout. That's according to sources. But this story was first reported by News Nation. If we scroll in a little bit, and I'll read some of it for you. According to the sources here, there is turmoil going on between, let's go back to the CNN reporting, between Pam Bondi, reportedly, Dan Bongino, and the director of the FBI, Kash Patel. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino has told people he is considering resigning amid a major clash between the FBI and the Justice Department over the continued fallout from the release of Jeffrey Epstein, the Jeffrey Epstein memo. Sources familiar with the matter told CNN. This comes after a heated confrontation with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the handling of the case earlier this week. Now, let me just summarize. According to the report, Dan Bongino is telling people it's him or Pam Bondi. And so at this point, we don't know exactly what is going to happen. But I can tell you right now, we have a couple people with us that you're going to be interested in hearing from. First of all, I'm going to tell you that we have Charles Coleman, who is a distinguished attorney. We also have Dina Dahl, who is a distinguished attorney. And we're going to get to them in just a moment. But on the line right now is Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother. Mark, good evening to you. Thanks for joining.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Mark, when you heard the news about this, what's happening at the FBI, and I know that there are certain things that you want about your brother's case to come to light in the investigation, what do you think is going on here? What's your reaction when you heard this?
I just think it's a compilation of all the incompetency that's been taking place there. But as I mentioned, for the past almost 6 years, I'm not that concerned with the case against my brother and the charges. I had nothing to do with that, and that's not my job to defend him. My concern is the details of the circumstances around what I used to refer to as my brother's death, and now I refer to it as my brother's murder. Because as time goes on and more things come to light, it's pretty obvious that it wasn't a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happening is a lot of people are trying to throw their hat into the ring and try to get part of the story and make a story out of it. And there's a lot of misinformation going on. Just the other day I was described as Jeffrey's older brother. I'm not the older brother. It's just, it's that kind of stuff that people aren't being thorough and they're just trying to make a story out of things. But again, I'm concerned about my brother's death and the missing information that we can't get, that you would normally get in a normal situation like this. I mean, simple questions like the night he was locked in for the last time, the night of August 9th, we know that one of the guards that got in trouble, Tova Noel, was there. The other guard, Michael Thomas, he was not there when they locked up the cell. He came on shift in the middle of the night. And in the DOJ report, they talk about an unnamed guard number 1 and an unnamed guard number 2. Who are they and why are they unnamed? That doesn't seem normal. We also can't get a copy of the 911 call that was made from the prison when they found Jeff's body. Also, I can't get the PCR report, which is the report that the EMTs fill out after every call they make. I was having trouble trying to get the PCR report, so I actually went to the fire department headquarters in downtown Brooklyn. And it turns out, and I have this on videotape, they don't have a record of the call. They didn't have a record of the 911 call that day, which the guy behind the counter, who was unaware of the Jeffrey Epstein story, he was kind of shocked that none of this was in the computer system. Also what I've been asking for, a few days after Jeffrey's death, Bill Barr, referred to the camera that was outside of the tier that showed the door to the tier, because the camera on the tier wasn't working for some reason, which we still don't know why it wasn't working. And I've been asking for the video footage from that very camera from 10 o'clock at night, the night before, until noon, the day he was found, because that would show who was there, who locked up the tier, who the last people on the tier were. And in the morning, it would show when Michael Thomas went in and found my brother's body. And it would also show when and how they took Jeffrey's body off of the tier, what condition it was in, who was there, who was running the show, who decided to move a dead body when they weren't supposed to move a dead body until the medical examiner showed up. So there's this, and also there was a handheld video camera being used. I was told by somebody on the scene, and where's the footage from that camera? There's, what else is there? Also, a big question is, who are the other inmates on the tier? We know there was a maximum of 16 people could be there because there's 8 cells and up to 2 people per cell. Now, Jeff was by himself in one cell, so that leaves 7 cells. So there was a maximum of 14 other people on the tier. We're not talking about hundreds of people. So the question becomes, who were the other prisoners? When did they get there? And where are they now? We can't get any of this information from the government. Any interviews done or statements by those prisoners? From what we understand, they weren't interviewed, which is normally done. So these are questions that would normally be given in a transparent situation. And this has been anything but transparent. And then, like I said, you had Bill Barr making that statement about he saw the videotape and nobody went in or out of the tier, which convinced him it was a suicide. Well, with 14 other people, potentially 14 other people on the tier, that's a pretty ridiculous statement, because any one of those prisoners could have gotten into Jeff's cell if the doors were left unlocked, as I've been told they were, killed Jeff and gone back into their cell. So for Barr to say that, that was one of the things that first clued me in that this was a cover-up. What you also don't hear is that the 2 professional forensic pathologists, the city pathologist and Dr. Bonino, who was there at the autopsy, came out of the autopsy room and said, this doesn't look like a suicide. It looks more like a homicide, like some kind of strangulation. You don't read about that. No one's talking about that.
You know what? You sent me something, and it's a little bit graphic. Have you shown that to the public before?
Well, it's been out in certain places, but not really. It hasn't been in the major newspaper as far as I know. Yeah, the part of the things about
Can we show it, or would you prefer we not?
You can. I don't. That's perfectly okay. It's evidence.
So
this you're talking about the picture. I can't see what you're showing. Is this the picture you're talking about with the mark on Jeffrey's neck?
Yeah, the mark, and then and it's got you see he's laying there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you picture somebody hanging by their neck, and I have other photographs of other people, unfortunately, in that situation. The rope around your neck goes tight under your chin and up behind your ears, because you have all your body weight pretty much hanging on this rope. Well, the scar on Jeffrey's neck, the indentation, goes around the center of his neck, more straight back. That's not the mark that would be left on a neck if he was hanging the way they described the way he was hanging. It took 4 years almost for us to find out what position he was in when he was found. I mean, why have we not been getting any information that would normally be readily available? Especially to me, I'm the next of kin. I'm his only, living close relative. I should have access to this. I can't get the medical reports. But let me go back to the video footage of what I was asking for. Initially, when I asked for that tape to see, how they took his body off the tier, initially I was told that I couldn't get it because it was still part of an active investigation. And I understand that. But after the investigation was over, I asked for it again. And I was very specific. I said the videotape that Bill Barr referred to, showing the tier, going in or out of showing the door going in or out of the tier. And now I was told that the only working cameras don't show that area. So first I couldn't get it, and now the cameras don't show that area. And now the other day they released footage of what they're saying is footage from that area. So it's just another one of the ridiculous situations that I've been facing of not getting information or getting misled. And they don't talk about this. Like I said, they don't talk about the initial determination by the 2 medical professionals. Kash Patel came out and made a ridiculous statement saying, well, he knows a suicide when he sees one. The question is, how many suicides has he seen? Is he a forensic pathologist? Does he have a medical degree? I mean, how could he make such a ridiculous statement?
Let me ask you this, and get this out of the way, and we'll talk more about the frustration that you have. It must be frustrating to you when you hear all of these, the remunerations and all of the gyrations and rumblings and everything that's going on now, because you had been wanting to have this evidence and everything come to light, and now it appears that some of it may be coming to light, and they're having to. It looks like folks that are within the FBI are even having to push their own agency or their own administration to release, the evidence and some of the photos and some of the records, et cetera. That's got to be frustrating for you as a family member, having to live through all of this.
Well, it's frustrating to me as a family member. It's also frustrating to me as an American citizen to know that the government is playing games like this. I would encourage any legitimate FBI guy, and I have a lot of respect for law enforcement personnel. I'm friendly with a lot of them. I would hope that one legitimate person would actually fess up and release some of this information, that we've been asking for. And we're not asking for anything out of the ordinary. We're asking for things that would normally be provided. Look, if this was a clear suicide, why are they hiding all this information? No one's been able to come out and say this is definitely a suicide with any facts, without disputing Dr. Bonino, who has done about 500 autopsies, prison autopsies, and I don't know how many Dr. Roman did, the city pathologist, but it's certainly more than one, as opposed to Kash Patel, who has, I would imagine, 0 autopsy experience.
Mm-hmm. When you saw that interview with them, I think there was a couple of interviews. The one thing with Maria Bartiromo, where they sat down, and I mean, they were glum, and they're saying there's nothing there. I would be honest with you, there's nothing there. After years and years of pushing, and also calling this somehow a Democrat, according to them, conspiracy theory, and that somehow the Democrats were involved in your brother's death.
I don't think the Democrats. Look at it this way. Bill Barr, when he came out with that ridiculous statement, he was the attorney general. Who did he look? If Jeffrey was murdered, which I believe he was, somebody did it. So the people who were coming out with these ridiculous statements, I think, are covering up for somebody, right? So who are they covering up for? Bill Barr worked for the president of the United States. Kash Patel works for the president of the United States. Pam Bondi works for the president of the United States. Maybe someone should ask him what he knows.
Who do you think they're covering up for?
Who do they all work for?
They all work for Donald Trump.
Well, like I said in another interview, I wouldn't be surprised.
You wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump was behind your brother's death? Are you saying that Donald Trump had your brother murdered, you believe?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if that's what it was, I wouldn't be surprised. We know that Jeffrey had dirt on Donald Trump. We know that. That's a fact. Because he said in 2016 with the election that if he said what he knew, they'd have to cancel the election. He didn't tell me what he knew, but that's what he said. And I've been public about that before. That shouldn't come as a shock.
Dirt like what? Dirt about what?
Steve Bannon said that the only person he feared for Donald Trump's sake was Jeffrey Epstein. Why? What do you think? Jeffrey was going to beat him up? No, it's because of what Jeffrey knew.
And what did Jeffrey know?
Well, I don't know. He didn't tell me what he knew, but he said if he said what he knew, they'd have to cancel the election. That's a direct quote. Yeah.
And you believe your brother had dirt on Donald Trump. I'm trying to figure out dirt like what?
Well, I don't know. He didn't tell me, but I do know they used to be very friendly back in the 90s into maybe early 2000s. Yeah, they used to fly in each other's planes. And yeah, Donald Trump was in Jeffrey's office a lot in the early 90s when he was in financial trouble. Yeah, they were good friends. Jeffrey used to tell me that he liked hanging out with him in the early days. Trump was a funny guy, so they were good friends. I only saw them both together once when I flew up from Florida with them on Jeffrey's plane once. So I don't have a lot of experience with them, with other people around, but they were good friends.
So, but Mark, let's be honest about this, all right? Because we're all adults here. When you say dirt, it would have to do with something that has to do with, either trafficking or SA, as we call it, assault, and young people, young girls. That's the accusations. Do you believe that?
Like that, because that's a possibility. It could also mean stuff in the business realm. Like I said, I don't know. Jeffrey didn't tell me. And as I've been saying for almost 6 years, I don't like to speculate. I like to stick with facts.
Mm-hmm. And you said it could be something in the business realm, or it could be something to do with that, right?
Well, it could be anything. I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to start listing possibilities. That's not my job.
But that's a lot to say that you are, that this person, well, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, your brother, did die, or as you say, was murdered. That's according to you. He did die when Donald Trump was president.
Correct.
And there will, and somehow this became Joe Biden's fault.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm not sure how that became Joe Biden's fault when it happened under Donald Trump when he died. And somehow it became Joe Biden's fault. And now they have released the papers, and they're saying the papers were at the Southern District of New York, and I've got all this stuff, and there's a lot of dirt and whatever. And then all of a sudden, there's nothing. And now you have the deputy head of the FBI saying, I may resign because the Attorney General of the United States is not releasing all the information that he believes is pertinent. That's pretty big, Mark. Come on.
I believe it is pretty big, but that's not what I'm interested in. That's the case. That's, look, nothing's going to bring my brother back. So I'm not worried, looking at that possibility. And the stuff about the case and what the intricacies of the government actions is not what I'm concerned about for my brother's sake, because that's what I'm concerned about is the circumstances of what I believe to be his murder. Look, was also, Jeffrey had a hearing coming up to his bail in a few days after he died. Now, knowing my brother as I did, I would imagine he wouldn't kill himself before the bail hearing, because if he got bail, he'd be out of jail. He'd be living in his house with an ankle monitor, with armed guards, with cameras, but he wouldn't be in jail, awaiting trial. I could see if he went for the bail hearing and it was denied, and then he figured he had to spend another year in jail waiting for a trial, I could see him, taking himself out. Like I said, when I first heard that he was found dead from an apparent suicide, I had no reason to doubt that. But the next day when they did the autopsy, and both professional, experienced pathologists came out of the room and said they couldn't call it a suicide because it looks too much like a homicide. That's on the initial death certificate. It's when it said cause of death, it said pending further study. And then a few days later, the chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, who never saw the body, Jeffrey was removed from the place before she ever showed up, she declares it a suicide without giving any explanation of what further study was done to make her come to that conclusion. Again, this doesn't pass the laugh test as far as I'm concerned. There's just so much of this, and there's so much like what you might call, circumstantial evidence. But it's like the story, like if you leave your house in the morning and the streets are wet with puddles and all the cars are wet and there's water dripping from the trees, but it's not raining, you could safely assume that it was raining before you came out. You didn't see it rain, but you know it was raining. It's the same thing here. You can't have, it's just looking too much like he was murdered. I don't know, I can't say who did it. I wasn't there, but it certainly doesn't look like a suicide.
Do you think there are too many weird coincidences of cameras going out and the video not working and, things that are being redacted, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about it when questioned about it at a press conference?
Yeah, why not? You would think the president of the United States would want the truth to come out instead of squashing it all.
Go on.
I would think that if he wasn't involved.
Say again?
I said, I would certainly think the president of the United States would want the truth to come out unless he was involved.
What would you say to him?
Well, I'd ask him to provide the answers to the questions we've been asking. And then, that would help a lot. And then to come to some kind of determination after that. Like I said, I don't want to speculate. I like to work on facts. And I would like to get the answers to the very simple questions that we've been stymied on.
Like?
Well, like who were the prisoners on the tier? When did they get there? and where are they now? Because we were told that a number of the prisoners were transferred off of that tier after the death. So let's say somebody was put in the prison in there a few days before as an inmate, but it was his real job there, some kind of covert operation to take Jeffrey out. And then he gets transferred out and he disappears into the ether. So that's why I want to know who were the prisoners on that tier. Like I said, it's not a huge number. It's a maximum of 14, and I think it was more like 12. Who were they? When did they get there? And where are they now? Now, we know that other inmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, was there, and he was there for a long time. So he certainly wasn't planted there, knowing that Jeffrey would be there to kill him. So we can sort of scratch him off the list of someone who might have been planted there. So now we're down to 11 people. And there was another guy that was Jeffrey's roommate for a while, a cellmate for a while, and he has since passed away from natural causes. So now we're down to what, 10 people, somewhere around there. So who are they? When did they get there? And where are they now? The Bureau of Prisons should have records of this readily available.
How is your family doing, especially and you specifically, because this case is in the news and then it goes away, and then you have to, push for them to release evidence and to be really transparent about what's going on. And then it comes up again, and then it goes away, and then it comes up like this again. I mean, it's got to be destabilizing, to say the least, for you.
Well, not really, because in all reality, I'm the only family. There's no other siblings. Our parents were gone for a long time. So there's no other real family that was close to Jeff that would be affected by any of this.
And so, but you.
Yes.
And you don't usually appear on camera, Mark.
I never appear on camera.
Why is that?
Because this is not about me.
Go on.
It's just not about me, and I just don't want to be out there. I travel a lot, and I don't want to be recognized.
A lot has been said about your brother, a lot of speculation, and your brother has been demonized. Do you think that there is a fair portrayal of your brother out there about who he is, what he might have done, what he was accused of?
Well, I know that Jeffrey did spend time with women that were too young. Yeah, he was guilty of that. He told me so when he first got in trouble. He told me he wanted me to hear it from him that he was getting in trouble for being with girls that were too young. So I know that's what he did, but I wasn't there. What he did with the girls, I wasn't, I was really, before Jeffrey died or was killed, I didn't see him for 7 years. We were always in communication with phone calls and emails and stuff, but we both travel a lot, and we were rarely in the same city at any time. So I didn't see him at all for 7 years, and for about 8 years prior to that, I only saw him maybe a half dozen times. So I wasn't aware or wasn't part of what he was involved with. So I really have no comment to say about that.
Would you like to talk to?
I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a defense attorney. That's their job, and I don't care about that. I
cut you off a little bit, Mark. Can you repeat that, please?
I said, I'm not a prosecutor, and I'm not his defense attorney, so I don't care about the cases that were affecting him. Also, he's not here anymore, so as far as I'm concerned, the cases don't mean anything to me. Okay, I'm just concerned about the circumstances of what I now refer to as his murder.
If you could talk to, do you want Bonino to resign? You think that would have a positive effect or a negative effect on what you want done?
No, because he wasn't giving me any information, so I don't care if he goes, comes or stays or goes. It's not that. Like I said, I'm not involved with that. I just want the information for the questions that we're asking, which would help try to determine what happened to Jeffrey in that prison.
There are certain people, a group of people who have built a whole narrative and built careers around your brother. And right now it appears that the stuff that it is AstroTurf, and it's not a strong foundation, that it was built on lies and just on information that they had no idea about. And what it appears now is that, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino in positions where they are having to, at least for as much as they can, go by the law, even though Donald Trump is their boss. I think they're coming to a reality check about what really happened, and it doesn't necessarily line up with the narrative that they put forward.
Yeah, but lies eventually close in on you. You know, I mean, I would like Dan Bonino or Cash Patel to say, "Hey, the initial autopsy report showed that it didn't look like a suicide; that it looked more like a homicide." That's a fact. We have all the records for that. Why won't they say that?
If you could ask them, if you could talk to them, what would you say? I know you'd ask them that question. Would that be the only thing you want to know from them?
Yeah, so why don't you release the information we're asking for? What's the big secret? Why are you hiding this information? Why are you concealing this information? Who are you protecting in this cover-up? Because it's obviously a cover-up. There's been other cases with prisoners committing suicide, and it's completely transparent. All the information, whatever videotapes are, all the stuff is open when the attorneys ask for it, or some people ask it under the Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA requests. They get the information they ask. We're not getting anything. And then when I get something, they're telling me the cameras don't show that area that I'm asking about. And then they release a videotape supposedly of that same area. So how are you supposed to assume that this is straight and legit?
I think not only you deserve it, but I think the American people deserve it, because they've been living with this as well for the last 6-7 years.
Well, that's what I said at the beginning. I said, I'm asking for myself, and I'm, as a brother of Jeffrey, and I'm asking as an American citizen. This is not what this country should be about.
Mark Epstein, thank you, sir. I wish you peace, and I appreciate you coming on. I know that you're on vacation, and you're spending time with your family. So I hope you get the answers that you deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Be well.
Be well. You be well. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's what you get here on the Don Lemon Show. You get exclusives like that and information like that. And that is the brother of Jeffrey Epstein, who is at the center of this controversy that is happening in the country right now. The FBI deputy director may be resigning because they can't agree, or he can't agree with the Attorney General of the United States. And then you have now the brother of Donald Trump, the brother of Epstein, saying he thinks his brother, he believes for sure that his brother was killed. And he believes that it could be the highest person in the land who is behind it. Not my words, his. Dina Dahl is with us. Also, Mr. Charles Coleman with us as well. You guys were listening, right?
Yep.
Yep. Stand by. Give me 2 minutes. I'll talk about our sponsors, and then we'll get your reaction. Support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. BetterHelp.com is where you need to go. Folks are dealing with a lot. You see what Jeffrey Epstein's brother is dealing with. It's a lot. Anyways, support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from BetterHelp. Workplace stress is now one of the top causes of declining mental health, with 61% of the global workforce experiencing higher than normal levels of stress. So to battle stress, most of us just can't, say goodbye to work, but we can start small with a focus on wellness. Okay. That's where BetterHelp comes in. You guys know I like to take the stigma off of mental health. I tell you about that I meet with a therapist, sometimes weekly, sometimes every 2 weeks, whenever I can. BetterHelp is more than 30,000 therapists. It is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it has served more than 5 million people. BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise, and our listeners get 10% off of their first month at betterhelp.com/DonLemon. That's betterhelp.com/DonLemon. Support for this show also comes from Beam. It is a dream powder that I use to help me fall asleep naturally, and it works. So I turn to Beam because I need to be ready to face the day, because you see what is happening. The right and the news cycle, I'm talking about the right wing, they're trying to keep you out. They're trying to give you misinformation, trying to tire you out so that you can't fight for the things that you think is important. Anyway, so this natural powder helps me to sleep. It's designed to help you get deep restorative rest that your body and mind need to stay in the fight. Okay, it has got science-backed ingredients, all of them natural, including melatonin, and it helps you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up ready to organize, resist, and raise hell without the fog or the crash. Since I started, my focus is back, my energy's returned, and I'm ready to face the day, ready to stand up for the things that matter to me. Not the only one. It has improved the sleep of 17.5 million people, 17.5 million nights of sleep for people all across the country. Right now, Beam is offering up to 40% off the best-selling Dream Powder for my listeners. It is a limited time offer and the perfect way to overcome that exhaustion and stay in the fight every single day. So go to beam.com and shopbeam.com/lemon and use the code lemon at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/lemon and use the code lemon for up to 40% off. Sleep well, wake up ready. The fight continues. Thank you to our sponsors. Wow, wow, wow. Dina and Charles. Woo! Dina, I saw you taking notes.
Yes.
He's saying that he thinks that someone's behind his brother's death and his brother did not die by his own hands.
I mean, it's stunning. As you said, he's talking about the president of the United States implicated here. And the thing that struck me the most is cases that end up getting prosecuted are the ones where the family members keep it in the public eye. And I feel like this is, of course, a case that we all care about. But he's acting like a typical family member of somebody who feels as if their crime was not properly addressed by the justice system. And so him coming on the show today and speaking out is his story is so similar to a lot of stories of family members of like where he sees the gap, the justice system not addressing. So this is both like a very political story. I know we're going to get into that. And then he's talking from a very personal point of view. And because of that, he's keeping this, the justice system to tack in order for him to feel like he hasn't gotten, the murder of his brother not being addressed by the justice system. And that often works when family members do that.
It is shocking to hear that come out of his mouth. I mean, you got to admit that. Charles, you got to admit when you heard that.
Yes and no. I mean, I think that the conversation and what we've learned, what we believe that we know about the potential of a client list and everything else surrounding this points in a very particular direction. And I'm not saying that it points directly to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Those are not my words, but it does point to power. It points to power in a broad scale in terms of the number of people who were implicated from a class, wealth, and status standpoint, in such a way that the story of things not being what they seem does not seem to be as implausible as it normally might. And the more that we have these conversations about the failures with the cameras, the unique circumstances of the death, and everything that we don't know, at some point, it has to become more rational, more logical to take a straight line and think, maybe it's actually not as complicated as we've been told it is, because we've been sent down these various rabbit holes. Maybe it is as simple as there was a list that had a lot of folks who were on it, who were implicated, who we did not necessarily want to have exposed, and that there were folks who were invested in that list, that information, and Jeffrey Epstein never being able to tell that to the public. And that's how we are where we are. I think that I understand the notion of not getting too attached to any sort of conspiracy theory or rabbit hole in such a way that defies the facts is something that we should seek to avoid at every turn. But at the same time, when you're looking at the circumstances, as someone who has prosecuted a number of cases, dealt with inmates, dealt with the technology around prisons, prosecuted corrections officers, you can see almost any and every angle within a prison from a number of different angles. And so all of the failings that take place to land us here where we don't have any information and all of these blind spots is actually the more striking thing around this discussion. The last thing I'll say, and I know we'll talk about it a little bit later, is Don, for as invested as I am in this, because I am invested in it in the standpoint of we cannot allow sort of the truth to just be given to us and escape us without any sort of evidence being provided, whether that's that there was no client list or whether that's the most powerful people in the world were on the client list. Either way, we're going to need something to substantiate what it is that we accept as the truth. I am still particularly tickled, if I may say so, at the conundrum that this has thrown ideologically to the right, because it is split them down the middle in terms of a lot of folks who were expecting that this administration was really going to put their foot on the gas and going after and exposing everything with respect to the Epstein list, and who are now split on the fence because the leader of their party has said, we're not talking about that anymore. And the diehard right wingers are also saying, wait a minute, how? We were just, this was the thing. So I am particularly interested in that conversation. I know we'll get there, but to go back to your question.
No. Let me, excuse me. You can answer that question later. Let me just say this. I just got a text from him. He's saying he didn't say this. And he said, Don, and this is a text just when, as you were speaking, it came in. For the past 5+ years, a number of people have told me they thought Trump had killed Jeff. Trump had Jeff killed, excuse me. I didn't speak about it before because I wanted to stick to facts. Now it looks like it was raining.
Wow. That's he's doubling down there for sure.
What do you think? First, Charles, because you were just talking about that, you said, and then Dina.
I understand I think one of the things that makes this such a complicated conversation is if in fact it were to be revealed that there was a high level, I'll just say that high level cover up that helped to orchestrate, cover up, and dispose of this entire thing, it could literally break the levers of power.
Yeah.
And I think for us to process that, requires us to sort of put on the most imaginative hats that we would only see like sitting in cinema for a conspiracy that large. But at the same time, I also think that there exists a part of us who are looking at this objectively and saying, we can't also take that completely off of the table. And that's where the sort of the difficulty in processing this comes in.
All right. One more thing. I just want to be respectful. Stand by, Dina. One more thing, Charles. You talked about how it's splitting the Republican Party, and we're watching that play out right now. That's how the breaking news started. And then yes. I called Mark Epstein, and he goes, yeah, I'll come on and talk about it now. The deputy director of the FBI is willing to resign because he thinks that the attorney general should be releasing more information.
Don,
and then Dina, you can weigh in on this as well after you talk. Go ahead.
You're saying it without saying it. I mean, you're talking about people, the deputy director being one of them, who represent an element, a faction, a contingent of MAGA. And they've been on this. They've been on this talking about, everything from conspiracy theories around Democrats and pizza shops in New York all the way up through Epstein. And this has been their thing, so much so that during the election, there was conversation about the Epstein files and that information being released and why that wasn't. And that was an appeal to a certain section of that voting demographic. It was appeal to the QAnons. It was an appeal to the super duper alt-right folks who really have been in this sort of mode of believing that the list was dominated by Democrats and that the list was dominated by folks who were their political enemies and who were going to finally get exposed. And so it was profitable politically for them to indulge that sort of rhetoric then.
Yeah.
But now that there's been this blanket and almost summarily dismissive attitude toward this entire list, that section, that fragment of MAGA and everyone who they supported are feeling betrayed, and they're asking questions, and they're not willing to let this go as easily as other folks within the party would like. and that's where the rift is occurring. I don't know that they will be so easily able to reconcile this list, given how much they invested into pushing this early on, and now it's starting to bite them in the behind.
Yeah, look, and Dina, I'm not being disrespectful. I know Charles
Mhm.
have to leave. That's why I wanted to give him a couple of questions. So, Charles, if you have to leave, let me know. But I hope you can stay around a little bit if you can. Yes, if
I'll
not,
stay around for a little bit, as long
a
as I
little
can.
bit. Okay, Dina, go ahead. You want to weigh in on this because I often wonder, like, how did this become the Democrats' fault when it happened under Donald Trump? And Donald Trump is good friends with. You heard the brother saying they were friends, and he believes his brother had something on Donald Trump, whether it's business-wise or something personal. So, what gives here? Why do the Republicans, when they see, or the MAGA folks, Dina, when they see that video of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and Melania Trump and, all together, that somehow they see Barack Obama or Joe Biden? No, that's not Donald Trump. That's Joe Biden in that picture. It's really weird. And now you have all of this playing out after Dan Bongino. You know this, Dina.
Mm-hmm.
He had a very popular right-wing podcast, right? One of the top podcasts where this was one of the main subjects that he covered. This thing, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. You know what I mean? That thing. And him along with a bunch of these podcast bros. And now they're going, what? And then here we are with Bongino and Bondi.
Well, Trump always tries to blame the Republicans. I mean, he's doing it with the economy. So talk about Biden, but this, he can't do that because everybody knows. I mean, you could say that his clear control of the Department of Justice is backfiring here because nobody, MAGA world, Democrats believe there's any space between him and the DOJ and the FBI, as you would typically have with the presidency. So he cannot and is not separating himself from this. And that's why we're seeing the MAGA outcry. They know that Pam Bondi, Kash Patel would do anything Trump wants. And not only is it so interesting about the deputy director of the FBI maybe resigning, but let's talk about the deputy attorney general. There's so much focus on Pam Bondi. It looks like they're going to try to make her the scapegoat. But Tom Blanche is the deputy attorney general. He used to be Trump's criminal defense attorney. And in this whole today of this mess of posts of whether or not Dan was going to resign, he put out a statement saying there was no space between the decision of the DOJ memo, that there were no files, that there was no space between the FBI and the DOJ. He's trying to make it very clear that this was a combined effort on their part. It's also a very good statement if you were being a criminal defense attorney for Trump, right? So, Trump has embedded so many of his own people that you have no idea if Tom Blanche is acting like the number two at our attorney general or if he's acting like Trump's criminal defense lawyer. I mean, there's so many. I'm not surprised. The other, I think, startling thing that Mark Epstein said in his interview with you, Don, was he said that back in at the election time, Epstein told him if he were to reveal what he knew about Trump, the election wouldn't happen, right? I mean, there are so many ties between them, right? I mean, Virginia was trafficked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump's first Secretary of Labor was the U.S. Attorney General for the Southern District of Florida. When Epstein entered into that non-prosecution agreement, which gave him zero consequences for a crime, what happened? Trump promotes him, right, and becomes Secretary of Labor. Never mind all the flight logs. Never mind the fact that Epstein says that Trump was his best friend for years and years. Never mind the fact that Trump himself says he knew Epstein liked his women young. There are so many things that connect the two of them. And now you have all of a sudden the files being gone. You have Elon Musk going out there saying Trump is in the files. And you have Trump's own criminal defense attorney out there saying, and this is, I think, Charles, where you were talking about like the levers of power. Wouldn't it be very interesting if all the things that we actually, I mean, honestly, this sex trafficking ring of minors is crucial. If there really is this out there with powerful officials, that I'm not trying to minimize it, but there's so many things he's doing to bring down our democracy. And it would almost be ironic if this were the thing, right, that brought down these FBI directors and attorney generals, because this is the only thing that MAGA maybe cares so much about. I do think they actually really, truly care about this quite a bit. I don't think they're going to let this go. I don't think Trump is going to get out of this very easily. He said in the press conference, like, why are we still talking about this? Well, because you promised on the campaign trail you were going to do something about it. Your attorney general said the list was on the desk a few months ago. You know, we're going to care about this. MAGA is going to care about this. They may not care about the economy. They may not care that the neighbors are getting disappeared, but they care about Epstein. And in that respect, I'm glad for it, because we need something to bring Trump's feet to the fire.
I think that's a fantastic point in terms of the problem that the GOP, particularly hardliners and very, very far right folks in the GOP, and have created with this monster of a story, and then sort of the way that more centrist leaning GOP members, by not sort of really addressing it, have allowed it to breed. At this point, it's becoming more and more radioactive. I also think
hold that thought. Well, you also think, hold that thought, because I think this really sort of personifies what you're talking about now, and the rift and what's going on. This is Dan Bongino in 2023. I think it's 2023. And then I'm going to show you Dan Bongino in 2025. It's not that long. Here it is.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it, outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Okay. He never mentioned Donald Trump. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, Charles, but I wanted to play that for you.
Again, I think, honestly, we've been talking about rain and, Mr. Epstein, who was on with you, talked about, circumstantial evidence of what it is to see something wet outside and make a conclusion about its rain. I'm going to make an allusion to a different analogy involving rain in my face and what I know is not. I realized that I'm going to respect your show and not.
Well, you said don't pee on me and tell me it's raining outside.
There you go. Don't pee in my face and tell me it's raining. All right. This sort of blanket passage of a narrative that is completely opposite what we were told or suggested to us before, without any evidence, smells really bad. It smells really bad, and the more that this story stays around and you try to sell this narrative without ultimately providing folks evidence, the harder it's going to get. The one thing that I was going to say to Dina, the point that I think was really, really important, was that the problem that they have now is that the call is coming from inside the house, in the sense that it's MAGA who's upset. It's not Democrats necessarily who are the ones who are pushing this conversation. It's within your own party. But here's where we have to connect the dots, folks, because with the way that this administration continues to siphon power away from different parts of the government and centralize power within the executive branch, that's where this becomes an example of a problem that creates the potential for a significant abuse of power. All of a sudden, this administration has enough power to silence media outlets from talking about it, to dictate who gets into the White House press corps to have conversations about it. And no one says anything because these things have been normalized. And these sorts of sudden resignations for myriad government officials, all of this stuff is really a function of what's possible when we take small steps toward autocracy. And I think that in the broader picture, to connect the dots, when you think about the power grab that this administration has been under and how it has been enabled by the Supreme Court in terms of a rapid expansion of power, the likes of what we've never seen from the executive branch, this is an example of where things can get out of hand, because now the levers of power are configured in such a way where they've got a lot of leeway to throw around and can bury this story or give their best effort in burying this story, or the people who might want to talk about it. I don't mean that figuratively. Literally, I mean that figuratively.
Yeah. That's the final. It's going to be the final word from Charles, and then Dina, go ahead. This will be the final word as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think Elon Musk and his control of X and what the algorithm is going to keep this alive. He wants to keep it alive. He kind of started the flame, you would say, a few weeks ago, and it's all over X. Right. X is very MAGA right now, and it's all over there. And the responses to the White House post, I think he put out a Superman type post. Tons of those comments were about this. But another report that's interesting, and is just going to keep this story alive, is, the video footage that they put out. Wired says that it was manipulated, that they had experts take a look at it, and it was not raw footage, as they said, that it was at least more than one clip put together, and that it's when you manipulate it like that, you cannot. It wouldn't be something, yes, that could, stand up in a court of law. And I think that kind of goes back to a little bit to Mark Epstein's interview with you in the beginning, which there are so many holes, right? If you were this case, I guess you wouldn't try to charge somebody with suicide, but let's say you were to. There are so many holes in this case from an purely evidentiary point of view. And their latest release of that video, which was supposed to be we have nothing to show here. And instead, it's become a whole other story. Yes, to feed into the conspiracy theorists, but also to feed into those of us who care about evidence. If you are going to put out a video that's supposed to be exculpatory, you cannot manipulate it in a way that makes it inadmissible in court, right? As a lawyer, I care about that. Those of us who care about facts should care about that. Now they won't answer how they manipulated or didn't they manipulate it. So I don't think this story is far from over, and not just from a pure conspiracy theorist, but they certainly aren't putting forward reliable evidence that makes you think that they're not covering something up.
Yeah. Dina, Charles, thank you. I've kept you way too long, but didn't you find that interview fascinating? Yeah. Charles is like, nothing I haven't heard before. Not a big deal. And by the way, Charles, I'm going to text you my address, and we'll have those glasses, please. Thank you very much. Someone said that,
I'm a friend,
that our shirts look like the Italian flag on the screen.
There you go.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. I really, really appreciate it. Sure. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely. That was great, right? And I think that Jeffrey Epstein's brother is right. They deserve some answers. They deserve answers, and not just because the political people want it and because the MAGA people are screaming for it or any of those things. Is because the family deserves that. And if anything was manipulated, then we need to know. If we have folks who are in the highest levels of government in the world, if they are covering something up, or whatever it is, we deserve to know as the American people, as the people who pay their salaries. They are the servants who work for us. They're public servants. Okay, I'm going to get talk to you guys about some stuff. And then we're going to tell you about what's going on, what I'm doing something, DL and DL is coming up. But first, I'm going to get a break in. I want to get a word from our sponsors in, and I'll be back. Just give me 2 minutes, okay? And then we're going to talk about the news, okay? So support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from the Wild Alaskan Company. I love my seafood. You guys know I love my fish, right? And I finally found a place where I can get seafood that tastes great, that is nutritious, and it is sustainable, okay? So I have discovered the Wild Alaskan Company. Wild Alaskan Company is the best way to get wild caught, perfectly proportioned, nutrient-dense seafood delivered directly to your door. So trust me, you haven't tasted fish this good. Wild Alaskan is 100% wild caught, never farmed. This means there are no antibiotics, GMOs, or additives, just clean, real fish that support healthy oceans and fishing communities. Their fish is frozen right off the boat to lock in the taste, texture, and nutrients like omega-3s. While caught from Alaska, every order supports sustainable harvesting practices, and your membership delivers flexible shipments, expert tips, and truly feel-good seafood, okay? So it's all risk-free. If you don't like it, you get a 100% money-back guarantee if you're not completely satisfied with your first box. So not all fish are the same. Get seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/lemon for $35 off your first box of premium wild-caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/lemon for $35 off your first order. Thanks to the Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode. Support also comes from FFRF, which is the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And you guys know that there are people out there who are trying to change the narrative of this, how this country was founded. They're trying to say that this country was founded as a Christian nation and that it's somehow a Christian nationalist nation. They would like to see nothing more than that. But that is not right. That's not what our founding fathers wanted, okay? So they're trying to push their religion into classrooms, into courtrooms, and even to doctors' offices. In states around the country, they're trying to protect women's reproductive rights and abortion rights, but from some of them that have been stripped, and the religious right is fighting back against that. They're also trying to get the Constitution put in every classroom in states around the country. It happened in Louisiana. They tried to do it. Texas is pushing a bill for that as well. Congress just passed a bill to strip Medicaid coverage for gender-affirming care of all ages. So that's where the Freedom from Religion Foundation comes in. They have been defending church-state separation since 1978, okay? And they've been doing it in schools. They've been doing it wherever, in the courts, wherever religion tries to take the wheel. So if you believe that government should serve everyone, not just the religious right, make sure you join them. Go to ffrf.us/freedom or text my name, Don, to 511-511 and become a member today. Join us and go to ffrf.us/freedom or text Don to 511-511 because the only story that should run this country is ours, not theirs. Text fees may apply. So back to the program now. What did you guys think of that interview? Smoking gun, fake statements. That's what Edgar Walker says. Why do you think it's a smoking gun and why do you think it's a fake statement? Why do you think that? I thought that interview was fascinating. When he talked about his brother, he believes his brother had info, had dirt. He's saying that Steve Bannon said the only person that he was concerned about that could ever take Donald Trump down would be Jeffrey Epstein. That's according to the brother there. I'm paraphrasing what he said in there, but that's what he said. So I don't know. Trump talks trash about Epstein now, his buddy back in the day. He's a user. Yeah, but he doesn't want to talk about Epstein, which is interesting. He's like, I don't want to talk about him. Why are you talking? Why are you asking? We got all of this going on. Why are you talking about it? Move on. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know who Jeffrey Epstein is. That's what he's saying. So that's where we are on this Friday, and we'll see if the deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, if he steps down. But we're certainly in an interesting place right now. I mean, I had so much that I wanted to cover and play for you, including, I think you saw it yesterday, the podcast bros who are Trump Glazers, Trump D-riders. They're turning against the administration saying, what the hell is going on? Pam Bondi is saying, nothing to see here, move along. And just days ago, really weeks ago, she was saying, oh, there's so much that will be revealed. Donald Trump had a meeting, according to our source, or according to Michael Wolff, who we spoke to earlier today. He said that there was one meeting where Donald Trump talked about the possibility of pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Jeffrey Epstein's alleged partner in crime. Now, I wonder if, with all of this, if there's no evidence of any of the things that they say, I wonder if she's going to get out of jail or out of prison. Man, This is crazy. You know what I said to my team? Hey, team, hop on, please, real quick. What I said to my team, and you can join by camera if you can join, but if you can just put your audio on. I said, this might just be the thing that takes it all down. Because everyone thinks like they know where it's going to come from. Oh, this is going to be the thing that takes Donald Trump down. Grab him by the pee. Doesn't happen. This is going to be the thing that takes Donald Trump down. E. Jean Carroll. Doesn't happen. This might be the thing, though. Did I not say that on our editorial call?
You did, and I'm inclined to agree with you.
You agree. Why do you agree?
Well, as I think both Nikki and I pointed out, in past Trump-related scandals, it's always been some coalition of Democrats or liberals or the quote-unquote deep state or the lamestream media that has been angry about some bad deed, some misdeed by Pete Hegseth or company. And this time it's none of those factions. It's Republicans themselves. It's MAGA. And so I especially once you have Dan Bongino and now reportedly Kash Patel both offering an ultimatum to Trump saying it's either the two of us or Pam Bondi, I don't see how there's not someone who is ultimately ousted by this.
Someone, yes, but it's not going to be Trump. Like I just don't think this is going to be the thing that takes him down, because I don't think anything can amongst his followers. I truly believe he could do anything and they would still follow him. I think he is going to throw someone under the bus, though. It'll probably be Bondi.
Look, traditional wisdom from what we know of Trump over the last decade, I would say that you're right. But I don't know. I mean, if things turn out to be, if they continue to go the way that they're going, I think it could be. And the divide in the party, I mean, the people who were out here just, what do you call it? Caping for him the entire time are now like, wait, you ran on this. What happened, brother? You know what I'm saying? And go on. And even maybe Dan Bongino knows something.
I do think this will cleave from Trump's coalition all of the folks who sort of just jumped on the bandwagon because they weren't super happy about inflation. And perhaps they were too young to remember all of the most horrific excesses of the first Trump administration. I'm thinking, Don, of the Flagrant podcast clip that maybe we can play a little later, and how all of those gentlemen who culturally have really nothing in common with the Republican Party, all of them are pro-gay marriage, all of them are pretty pro-abortion, but they just kind of like Trump's vibe, and all of them, to your point and to Nikki's point, have been, I think, permanently and fundamentally alienated from the MAGA movement because of how Trump has handled a host of different things, but very particularly the Epstein files. And just to close, I'd say that at the end of the clip, if we end up watching it, there's a gentleman who says, I don't know what's worse. The idea that these files are out there and Donald Trump is covering them up to protect himself, to keep himself from being incriminated in some crime, or if Trump and company knew that they were overselling the situation and were effectively exploiting the essay, the abuse, the grape of scores, if not hundreds, if not thousands of children in order to recapture the presidency. I mean, either scenario is just evil. You're muted, Don.
I don't know how I got muted, but let's play from the podcast that you were talking about.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? We have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
So we're stupid. Yeah. we're the fucking idiots, guys.
Yeah,
that
you
is,
are.
I think what is enraging people right now is it's insulting our intelligence. Like, obviously the intelligence community is trying to cover it up. Obviously the Trump administration is trying to cover up. Something changed because they ran on this idea of exposing it all. All these guys had great ideas. Cockeyed Cash, Dan Bongino.
He had clips, dog. He had bars.
He was ready to tear it all down. He was ready to tear down the entire FBI office.
Shut down the Hoover building day one.
Day one.
That bitch still standing.
And then he goes on Joe Rogan and he's like, listen, do you think if I had it, I wouldn't share it with you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I do believe that
I do.
100%, especially when you're staring at me like this, telling me that. Once you protect pedophiles, you are the most cockeyed person in the entire world.
So one of two things, in my mind, is possible. One, you're covering it up. Or two, nothing really happened and you exploited the rape of thousands of children to get your man elected. So which one do you want here?
Okay, look, I have to say that I agree with him on that, but didn't they know that before the election? There were a lot of.
I think you muted yourself again, Don.
I'm not trying to. Sorry, I changed that. Obviously, the setup here. Didn't they know this? Should they have known this before the election? Where they're like, "We're stupid." I'm like, "Yeah, you are," because there were people who were telling you this before the election. There were people who were telling you this is a conspiracy theory. There were people who were telling you that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were buddies. And the evidence was there, and there's got to be something to it, or perhaps there's something to it. But you overlook that because, as you said, they like him. They just like his vibe. And now here they are involved in a matter that I believe is of serious consequence and could have some serious consequences, even more serious consequences to come. We'll see. I got to run and get off. Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you very much, Peter. Oh, by the way, Peter, come back on.
Yes.
Let me show you this. Oh crap! Someone in the thing said, I thought Peter said he didn't have a ball cap.
He just didn't that day.
I did not that day. I own hats, people. I own hats.
We were all on with hats, including Andy, who is not showing himself today. But we were like, Peter, you're the only one who doesn't have on a ball cap. And what happened? Did you go get one because we shamed you?
No, I own a hat. It was all the way on the other side of the house.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever.
Lies. This is the true conspiracy right here.
This is worse than Epstein. It goes all the way to the top.
Peter hat scandal.
This is the conspiracy theory. What do you guys think? Peter why is he lying about a baseball cap? I think
if he's lying about that, what else is he lying about?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've seen him. Remember when he thought he wasn't on camera and it was the toupee? And so he has that hat on because it's really a toupee under there.
It's true. It's true.
I'm just saying. By the way, I saw your little podcast.
My little podcast?
Yeah, a little podcast with Tim Miller and what's his name?
Cam Caskey.
Yeah, Cam Caskey. And wait, what did they call you? Don Lemon's white boy?
I did not agree to that label, but yes, they did call me that.
Did you tell them why they called you that? Because you were walking down the street one day and someone said what?
There on two occasions, there have been women who have both sort of clocked me and then did a double take. And literally on both occasions, they came over and they did not know my name. They didn't address me. They didn't say like, hi, Peter. They just said like, are you like Don Lemon's like white sidekick? Are you Don Lemon's like white boy?
I'm being nice because Tim Miller and Cam actually called you Don Lemon's white twink. I'm just saying.
I think they did.
Know that. Okay, see you. Twink. Get out of here. All right, thank you guys. So listen, by the way, we got to get Peter. Peter should have a Lemon Nation hat on. So anyway, so go to our people have been asking, go to our merch store. Grab one of these babies. And we got some new stuff up there, some new merch. There it is. We're styling and profiling in the streets of Manhattan with the Lemon merch. And I know you guys, you're going to be cooking and stuff and all kinds of barbecuing. So here's what you need to do. You need to go and get the candle and all that stuff. All right. And the fan. Where's my fan? I don't know here it is. Back. I'm doing it wrong. There's my fan. I'm going to probably need that the entire summer. We got a dog thing, a little dog bandana, and some lemon socks. I know it's crazy, but people buy this stuff. You guys need to go get some of this stuff. Take a picture of yourself in the merch. Send it to us, and we'll put it on the screen. Send it to us on social. If you can put it, I don't know if you can post it on the community page, however you can get it to us. We'd love to see you. And then make sure you do the hashtag Lemonation. Okay. Anyways, also, I want to tell you guys, I told the folks this morning that go there, and let me tell you where you can go. You can go to the show page on YouTube, and you can just go to show page on YouTube, not the website. Show page on YouTube. Okay. Anyways, there it is. Go to the show page on YouTube, and then you just go scroll on over to store, and boom, that's where you can get the stuff. Okay. I like that gray t-shirt. I can't wait for that one to come. And then you can go to donlemon.com if you find that easier, and it might be. Go to donlemon.com and you can click on merch, and then that will take you, boom, click it. That'll take you right to, there it is, to the merch store. Okay. So there you go. Also, all right, guys, back by popular demand, or if he was here, he would say black by popular demand. It's DL and DL, episode 2. And that is happening at City Winery here in New York City, or in New York City, in Manhattan at City Winery. I think it's at 7:30. Doors open at 6 p.m. Last time it was great. People had food, people relaxed. They had a couple of these. I finished mine during the whole thing. I started with a full, you know what, this is also in our little merch store. Lemon Live. It says right there, Lemon Live with Don Lemon. Okay. And so I had my little margarita. And so it sold out last time. Some folks were complaining because they didn't get to see it. So go on. Is the thing at the top of the website, the link, or no? I mean, at the top of the chat? Anyways, go to the City Winery. Just Google City Winery. Go to City Winery website. Is it citywinery.com? I'm not sure. But go to City Winery website, and you can look for that, or we'll put the link in our community page as well, and we'll put it out on socials. But August 12th, 7:30, City Winery. It's going to be so much fun. Last time it was amazing. It's going to be even better this time. Okay? So I appreciate you joining us today. There it is. The link is at the top of the chat. So you can go and grab a ticket. Get them while they're hot. The cocktail glass is sold out. Oh, I'm so sorry. It is pretty cool, guys. It is really cool. So is this. So is that. Really cool. Boom. And then the other side has that little, and it's got a lemon. It's very subtle. You can't see it. But is this the one with the lemon? No, it's not. That one's not the one with the lemon. Okay. Thank you, guys. You can be informed. Have a great weekend. Hopefully, maybe I'll be back this weekend if there's breaking news, and chances are there will be. And then if not, I'll see you at 10 a.m. on Monday morning. But here's the thing. You can be informed without being inundated. You don't have to just sit in front of the TV and just get all outraged. All right. You can just tune into us. So in the meantime, until we see you the next time, turn the TV off. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support.